In today's video, I'm diving into 10 things narcissists say with deliberate intent to provoke you. Let's do it. Hi friends, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Tamie M Joyce. I'm the founder of Tamie M Coaching, and I'm an empowerment life coach helping people heal and recover from painful family of origin and romantic relationship patterns so you can finally live your best life in peace, confidence, and freedom. I run a powerful 8-week transformational coaching program called the Freedom Class, specific to healing and recovery from codependency and narcissistic abuse. If that's of interest to you, be sure to stick around till the end of the video and I'll tell you how you can learn more about my programs. So let's talk about 10 things a narcissist will say to provoke you. Number 1, you'd be nothing if it weren't for me. Narcissists will happily take credit for your accomplishments and all of the hard work you've put into doing, creating, building, or even becoming something that they themselves have not. And although they may or may not have contributed in some way, usually a very small way, if at all, to helping you get where you are, regardless, they'll be of the mindset that if it weren't for them, you'd be nothing, an absolute zero, a total lost cause. Can you imagine what kind of empathy impaired, entitled, and self-absorbed emotional manipulator you'd have to be to say the words, "you'd be nothing if it weren't for me," to another human being? One you supposedly love, no less? They sure are something, aren't they? They'll also happily remind you of just how much you owe them for your own success. They don't just want to share in your glory, they want all of the glory for themselves, and anything else they can exploit you for along the way. These are the people who are not only jealous of, but are actually mad at you for enjoying the success that they themselves have been unwilling to work for. Charming. Number 2, you're overreacting. Or, similarly, you're too sensitive. Now, this is another example of a provocative statement narcissists will routinely make with deliberate intent to provoke you by devaluing you. What they're fundamentally saying with this one is, your emotions are not valid. They want to be able to do and say whatever they want without consequences or any kind of pushback. So, when you react, they'll call it an overreaction and diminish you and your very legitimate feelings. They say this because they don't want to acknowledge or own any responsibility for the fact that their words, action, or non-action have hurt you. So, instead, they make it your fault. And of course, this is a ploy to manipulate you and your feelings. They're trying to gaslight you into believing you're the issue because you're just too sensitive. And this is classic narcissistic abuse, friends. So please, do not fall for it. Nobody gets to tell you whether or not your feelings are valid. Although feelings are not necessarily facts, the reality is, if you feel it, it's true for you. Period. Number 3, everybody thinks you're crazy, have anger issues, are unstable, or the problem. Nice. Here's the thing. Narcissists use sweeping statements a lot, in particular when they're trying to backpedal their way out of whatever corner they've painted themselves into. They'll use a lot of everybody and no one statements. They also use a lot of always and never statements. So when they're throwing those words around, back the hell up and do not engage. They're baiting you, period. And if you want to learn more about narcissistic baiting, you can watch this video here. Number 4, I don't know what your problem is. The important thing to remember when dealing with someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive narcissism is this. The moment they experience any sort of resistance, lack of cooperation, or pushback from you, in other words, the moment you're not having it, and now they know you've clued into the fact that they aren't even remotely close to being the person they want you and everyone else to believe they are going to have to make you the problem. Whatever it takes, you're the issue. You have to be the issue. Because if it isn't you, then who might it be? That's a real head scratcher, that one. Number 5, I've been nothing but pleasant to you, good to you, kind to you even. Seriously? Like, I have to wonder, do they even hear themselves when they speak? And look, To be fair, while it may be true that to some degree they've shown up with feigned kindness from time to time, especially if anyone else was watching, that does not negate or erase all of the awful things they've done and said before, during, and after showing up and smiling nicely whenever it suits them to do so. Pretending like all is well as a manipulative ploy, pretending they're the good guy or girl in the dynamic, pretending to have no ever-loving idea what your issue with them could possibly be. All of this is nothing more than pure manipulation, deception, and a little game they play to A, gaslight and confuse the hell out of you, and B, avoid altogether any accountability or natural consequences for the awful way they've behaved. It's an act, a performance. They're fake, as all get out, and you don't have to buy what they're selling, no matter who else may be falling for the nonsense. See it for what it is, and stay clear in so much as you are able. Now comment below and tell me whether or not you've heard any of these provocative narcissistic catchphrases. And if so, how did you handle it? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there's a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. Number 6, you're the only one. Like I said, they use sweeping statements a lot. Not just everybody, always, and never statements, but they'll also use the words only and ever to hone in on and target you specifically. Because according to them, you're the only one who has ever had this issue with them. You're the only one they've ever had this issue with. Not only is this a dead giveaway into the level of toxicity and stupidity you're dealing with when they're making only and ever statements in relation to you, it's also just one more way they attempt to sidestep and avoid accountability while simultaneously shifting blame onto you, trying to make you the problem. Are you starting to see a pattern here? What you have to keep in mind is the ease with which they lie, as well as the extent to which they project. Just because a narcissist says a thing does not necessarily make it true. In fact, the higher they are on the spectrum, the more likely it is they're lying through their teeth. How do you know a narcissist is lying? Simple. Their lips are moving. So, when they're saying something like, you're the only one, when they're using words like only and ever in relation to you, and all the trauma they themselves have brought to the table of the relationship dynamic, hold on to yourself. Remember who you are, who and what you're dealing with, and affirm the following. Lying about me does not change what's true about you, buckaroo. Enough said. Number 7, you're so selfish. You're kidding me, right? Coming from a narcissist, this is ridiculous, obviously. But it's also a classic example not only of just how deluded they are, but again, the extent to which they project their own character flaws and personality traits onto the nearest target, usually the most highly empathic target. Why? Because the light and the love that you carry disturbs the guilt, fear, and shame that they carry. True story. Now that said, it's also another way they attempt to shift blame and avoid accountability. You're seeing the pattern here now, right? You have to remember that you're dealing with a deeply insecure, wounded little toddler pretending to be an adult in an adult body. And while this can be infuriating to say the least, believe me, I know, it's also comical, if you can detach yourself enough from the crazy-making dynamic to see it for what it is. The thing is, the narcissist is most likely to accuse you of being the selfish and self-centered person in the relationship the moment they realize that you aren't going to be easy to control or manipulate. And neither are you going to be willing to capitulate to their expectations and demands, and therefore aren't cooperating with or enabling them in their toxic and destructive nonsense. Rather, if you're anything like me, you're drawing a line in the sand, calling them on their bullshit, and letting them know in no uncertain terms that you're not playing. And here's the thing about that. The moment you set a limit or a boundary with no way to their own boundaryless behavior, their sense of entitlement, expectations, desires, or demands, you'll be called, among other things, selfish. Because you're so selfish for taking care of yourself. You're so selfish for standing up for yourself. You're so selfish for having reasonable, healthy limits and boundaries, for having a mind and a life of your own. You're so selfish when they can't succeed in manipulating, dominating, or controlling you. And you're especially selfish when they can't get away with lying to or about you. How dare you love and respect yourself enough to say no or no thank you, or better yet, beat it? How dare you? Don't you know who the narcissist thinks they are? Number 8, you're the liar. I never lie. There are 2 key reasons why the narcissist will call you the liar. First, they want to give you the impression that you're more like them than you think you are. Bring you down to their level, so to speak. And second, if you haven't done your work and they can trigger your fear and insecurities, causing you to feel the need to prove yourself, and you react by spending all kinds of time and energy trying to convince everyone of the truth of the matter, they win. Not only have they managed to get you all frothed up and obsessed with setting the record straight, and the more you do that, the less it works, by the way, but also you're going to be a whole lot less focused on the fact that the narcissist is the actual liar, as well as whatever it is they're lying about and why. If you allow it, if you fall for this crap, then they've managed to divert your attention away from the reality and the truth of the matter, compelling you to defend and explain yourself to anyone who will listen, while simultaneously sucking you deep into the inverted reality that is narcissistic abuse, where everything is upside down, inside out, and backwards. Sick stuff, but this is how it works. Number 9, what are you even talking about? When you're attempting to communicate with a narcissist, when you're doing your level best to get through to them and express how you feel and why, the truth of your experience or the negative impact their attitudes and behavior are having on you and your emotional and psychological well-being, you'll often be met with, "What are you even talking about?" or "I don't see how that's possible," which, of course, is nonsense. They are liars. They know exactly what you're talking about. They just can't own their shit. So they pretend to be at a loss, which of course implies that you're making no sense whatsoever. They don't even know where you're coming from, as well as reinforcing the classic "you're crazy" narrative. And they do this with full intent to discredit and invalidate you, your feelings, the truth of your experience, as well as your perception of reality. In other words, I'm pretending to not understand what you're saying or where you're coming from so I can avoid being held accountable for the appalling way I treat you in this relationship. It's gaslighting, friends, nothing less. And if you want to learn more about gaslighting, you can watch this video here. And last but not least, number 10, false accusations. They'll say whatever it takes, whatever works, including accusing you of doing and being everything that they, in fact, are and have always been. Furthermore, if they can combine it with something they know is a sensitive issue for you, make it especially hurtful, bonus. They'll go for the jugular. Whatever will provoke an intense negative reaction in you, so they can now point the finger at you and say, "See, I told you she was crazy. Clearly they're the problem here, not me. It's them. See?" Unless you're real solid and bulletproof, and even then, don't give them the opportunity. Stay above reproach, and more importantly, keep your distance or break ties with anyone who feels entitled to provoke you in this fashion, no matter who they are. What I know for sure is this: people with a destructive narcissist personality pattern do not change. In fact, what's going on with these folks tends to get worse, not better, over time. And it's fully your job to take care of yourself in the face of narcissistic perpetrators. If you don't, who will? Certainly not the narcissist. And on that note, I'm going to call it a wrap. But don't stop now. I have well over 100 more videos right here on YouTube for you to watch to help you better understand the detrimental effects of narcissistic abuse and, more importantly, learn what you need to do now to heal from the abuse so you can start living your best life in peace, confidence, and freedom. And if you want to go deeper with me, go to TamieMCoaching.com and learn about my unique tried and true process garnered over decades of experience and learn how you can become my client.